I'm so happy to see all of you here. This is an amazing turnout. I want to thank Joanne, Angela, and our special guest Steve West here, who's going to put on a presentation for you concerning how to protect yourself from becoming victims of scams. And scams, obviously, in modern times with the connectivity of the internet and the Internet of Things, computers, cell phones, all the pieces that we have, that is the true wave of access to your finances, and it's the exploding section of crimes against people, particularly in our age group here, which is 55 and above. So, for those of you that don't know me, I am your chief of police here in Clinton. If you're not from Clinton, I'm not your chief of police, but I love you anyway. I've been here 7.5 years now. It's hard to believe, but time flies when you're having fun. We have a wonderful community here. I want to thank Christine as well, partnering up with us for this presentation. And it's my sincere hope that we're going to be able to just provide you with some guidelines and some awareness level so you can understand that the things that you really need to protect in this world are your personal identifiers, your personal biographical information. That is what the thieves of today are trying to steal, because that's the keys to the kingdom. That becomes you. It becomes your health benefits. It becomes your mortgage. It becomes all of your assets, your bank accounts, your checking account, your stocks, your investment accounts. All of these things can be compromised by these scams. And I will tell you this, my former agency was down in Lower Fairfield County. It was a very affluent community, and I was head of the investigative section for many years. That's where I linked up with Angela here, and it was huge, and it was a hugely underreported crime, and that was the real tragedy. The whole thing was because these people had a lot of money, and they were very powerful people. They were big CEOs of multinational corporations. They were used to getting their way with a lot of things, and they were used to running a lot of people around and having a lot of responsibility. And I think when they retired, you know, they did their thing. They traveled around the world. They played golf. They did whatever they did. And then slowly but surely, they kind of realized that they were becoming isolated. They didn't have a lot of people. And I think a lot of them, honestly, kind of felt they knew they were being scammed, but they just wanted to have that human contact. And I think that's one thing that I want everybody here, if you take away anything at all, understand that you're not a fool, that you're not being silly, and you're not stupid. These are socially engineered scams that are bringing in billions and billions and billions of dollars every year, all right? Billions of dollars. And they are specifically designed to work at the socialization process. At the end of the day, they're all con games, right? And con is confidence. It's a confidence scam. Somebody is purporting to be someone to get your confidence, to give them information, okay? Whether that be your date of birth, your social security number, your account numbers, any of these things are what they're after, because that's how the whole process starts. So there's a number of schemes, but they all break down to the basic thing of a confidence scam. Somebody is going to try and gain your confidence and then exploit that confidence to their benefit. So what we're going to try and do here today is, and I don't want anybody to live in fear, so I don't know if anybody listens to my radio show, selfless plug, but I do have a radio show on icrv.com. And we talk about scams. It used to be called Scam Patrol. It's now called APB and the CRV. And that's the main bulk of what we talk about, protecting yourselves against scams. We break down the anatomy of a scam, how it works, but basically, again, all the same thing. And they'll work at certain segments, right? They're smart. I'm telling you, these are smart people. They're PhDs. They're very difficult for us to prosecute. So in the old days, when I first started as a police officer a million years ago, back in 1989, you know, we would have property crimes, and then we would have burglaries, right? And the burglars would break in and they'd steal your flatware, they'd steal your jewelry, maybe they found some money. That doesn't occur anymore. We don't have those kind of property breaks anymore because nobody wants that. They're breaking in, they're going right to your medicine cabinet and taking your prescription pills. That's the only thing they're breaking in your house for now. They can get a TV sent to their house on Amazon for $25, you know, or even $500, but it doesn't matter because they're using your information on the fake credit card that they created in your name. So we don't see those kinds of property crimes anymore other than the break-ins for your prescription medications, which we do have medication drop box in our police lobby 24/7. If you have old prescriptions, please bring them in there and drop them off, because we're trying to keep these narcotics off the street, and that's a big avenue for them to get out in the street is home burglaries, where they go and take your pills. So pretty open format for this today. We want to engage with you. We want to answer questions. So we have Steve West here, who is a former FBI agent, and he is the senior manager of global investigations for Uber now. So a lot of Uber scams. He's going to let you know about that. He's going to talk to you about that. My good friend, my dear friend Angela DeLeon here from the former People's Bank, which is now M&T Bank, but we'll just pass on that whole tale of woe. We're not going to make her live that again. But Angela and I have honestly worked together for nearly 20 years, working on senior issues, all types of senior safety issues, from medical alerts, driving, and then the last decade and a half, honestly, about scams, because it's become such a large problem. So I will just touch on a couple of real quick ones, and then I'm going to turn it over to these guys, because otherwise we'll be here till 3 o'clock and I'll still be talking. And I'm going to get the looks from my executive assistant there shoving me off. I'll get the hook. So I'll just say this. If it's too good to be true, and this is from your generation who taught me this, right? If it's too good to be true, it probably is, all right? So that's the first rule of thumb. The second rule of thumb I like to always cite is my favorite president, Ronald Reagan, who said, trust but verify. Okay, so I don't want everybody thinking that everything in the world is a scam, okay, because it's not. But you need to understand that there is a very, very solid chance that everybody in this room has already had their information compromised at one place or another, because we give out our information all over the place, and the weakest link is the weakest link. So maybe your dentist went out of business, and he just threw all his files into the trash in the dumpster out back. Somebody went dumpster diving, they got all that information. Maybe you went to a gas station as you were taking a trip across the country, and you're out somewhere in Illinois, and you put your gas card in to pump gas into your tank, and there was a skimmer on that machine, and now it's got your credit card information on it. So there are any number of things. So the first thing I will say is that, number one, the United States government will never ask you to pay back taxes or any other form of penalty in cryptocurrency, okay? And they will not tell you to go to the CVS, get green cards, write the numbers down, tear up the receipts, and call in that to them on the cell phone. Not going to happen, okay? You don't pay the government, believe me, they're garnishing your wages, they're coming after you, all right? So cryptocurrency, first red flag. Anybody that's asking you to pay in Apple Pay, green dot cards, Bitcoin, you name it, 99.999% illegitimate and a scam, okay? Other thing I'm going to tell you is, what they're always trying to do is push past your disbelief or push past your reasoning process, okay? It's very difficult in the cyber world. Listen, we've evolved as human beings. Most communication is body language and perceived body language, the way we talk, the way our eyes move, the way our hands move, the things that we do. Whether you know it or not, your body is cued into that for millennia. Now what happens is, on the telephone and on the internet, on the computer, we can't see any of that. So that's all been removed. And we're also very comfortable. We're in a comfortable space. If I was walking in New York City down a dark alleyway and some guy calls me into a back dark alley and says, hey, listen, I'm from the IRS, you need to pay us back taxes or we're going to put you in the thing, I'm going to run the other way immediately, right? Because I'm going to understand, this is like, what? No, this is not here. I have a whole other set of indicators to tell me something is not right here. The problem with these internet scams, the mail scams, and all the other things are, you're comfortable in your home, right? I'm sitting in my home, I'm just looking at my thing, maybe had a busy day, and I look and I see I got 2 emails from the IRS saying, hey, you got to pay right now, otherwise we're going to send the police to your house and arrest you. Number one, the IRS is not sending any cops to your house to arrest you. I guarantee you that. It's not going to happen. But the scheme is designed to get you to react quickly, to push past your thought process of saying, what's going on here? So what I'm telling you is that gut instinct that you have needs to be vetted out. Don't let them push past that, right? There's no immediacy to any of these things that needs to be done immediately, okay? You don't need to go to the bank and send $20,000 in a shoebox to Jamaica. And I know we all think this is funny, but it happens, unfortunately, you know? And we've had situations many times where we have to go to all the Western Union offices around a certain location and tell them, do not accept money from this person because they're being scammed and they're basically muling money for the scammers. So if you think that something's not right, follow that out. Say, hey, listen, if it's on the phone, it's a phone call, somebody says, hey, you know, if you don't do this, we're going to come and you'll be arrested, or there's going to be heavier fines for you to pay, you need to pay this right now. Say, listen, I'm not comfortable with this, hang up the phone. Go to the true IRS website, which is .gov. Anything that is government should have a .gov address, not IRS agent at yahoo.com or, you know, whatever the, you know, email address is, that's some fake email. You have to look at that as well. Think past that and say, hey, listen, I was just contacted by an agent Jones who said that I'm due back taxes, and if I don't pay, they're going to arrest me. And they're going to say, well, no, that's a scam. But vet it out, because I'm telling you, your instinct 99% of the time now is right, right? Something here is not right. I mean, unless you've been like ducking out on your taxes for, you know, the past 50 years, maybe there's a little something to that, but it's still not going to come that way. And still the government is not going to tell you to go to CVS and buy up all the green cards and send it to them. Not going to happen. They don't work that way. They control the currency, they control your cash. So that's another part of it. So the other piece is, against the punitive, is easy reward, right? When I lived in Fairfield, one of our neighbors, a couple of houses over, fell for the lottery scam. And they told him, hey, you know, you won the Las Vegas lottery. You just need to send in the tax money so we can process your thing and send you the check. So my neighbors came to me and said, oh, you got to talk to Paul. He thinks he won the lottery. And we're trying to tell him it's a scam like he told us, but he's not believing it. So get Paul there and have a big argument with Paul. Tell him I see it all the time. I do it all the time. It's a scam. When were you ever in Las Vegas, Paul? When did you ever play the lottery in Las Vegas, Paul? How can you win if you were never even there and you never played the lottery? No. This is it. No. They got my. It was. I didn't even have to. They just picked my name from a random list. I said, it's a scam, Paul. Please do not do this. Please, I'm begging you. Don't do it. I'm telling you, it's a scam. Okay. See him 2 days later. He goes, thank you, Chief. You know what? That was a scam. It was not. I didn't win the lottery, but I won the BMW, and I sent the registration money in. So, but this is what I'm talking about. It's powerful. Paul was not a stupid guy. He was an engineer. He's a retired engineer, right? But he's lonely. He's by himself, and they work on these things, right? And they work, and they won't let it go. And some of them are very, very sophisticated. So I beg you, when you get these kinds of things, I want you to notify our police department. We will vet them out. It's a very rare occasion that we're able to prosecute these because a majority of them are offshore, okay? They're either Eastern Bloc of Europe, they're down in Jamaica, up in Canada. Even in the jurisdictions within the United States is very difficult. But we do have relationships with the FBI New Haven office, with the Secret Service, that do have some teeth for the larger pieces. And we've been kind of working at them to at least try and help us on some smaller dollar losses. Smaller dollar for them, obviously, big dollar for us. You know, you lose, or I lose $10,000, that's a lot of money, right? And that's a serious crime. And to me, the crime is worse than losing the money is being victimized and feeling victimized. And then, you know, now your kids want to, you know, have conservatorship over your money, and they don't want, you know, they want to have power of attorney because they want to make sure that your, you know, their inheritance isn't going to get squandered and sent down to Jamaica to some guy who told you won the lottery, or, you know, the prince over in Saudi Arabia who crashed his car, and now they want to give you the $7 million because you're the long lost relative that we had to hunt down. Which, believe me, $77 million, they're going to find a relative in Saudi Arabia. They ain't going to need to look all over and do a worldwide search to find you here in Clinton. But in all seriousness, we are here to help, okay? We're going to try and provide you with as much information as we can today. This is going to be a baseline information. I can tell just by the participation that we have here today, we're going to make this a regular occurrence. We need to do this more often. So if we don't cover your questions today and we can't get to them, you can email us, and we're going to set up another. We're going to set up another one of these to make sure that we have this on a regular basis. Because to me, this is kind of like training, right? And it's like church. You know what the message is going to be, right? But you got to keep going there to get it reinforced every week. So it's kind of the same thing, and it's the same theme that we have on the radio show. We talk about this a lot because if we can prevent one person from being scammed, I think we've been very successful in what we're doing. So, and again, you're not bothering us, okay? And I used to get that all the time. I didn't want to bother you. You know, I kind of felt foolish. I didn't want to bother you. It really was, you know, it wasn't like nobody broke into the house. They didn't, you know, they didn't put a gun to my head. No, it's still a crime, and you're being victimized. And I guarantee you, if you're being victimized, 50, 60, 100, 1,000 people are being victimized by that same group. Because the criminals have figured this all out. They're not going to stick up the liquor store and maybe get away with $400 or $500 when we're going to come with SWAT tanks and helicopters and dogs and everything else, when they could sit in their basement and just click away on their computer and knock down $2,500 an hour, $1,000 an hour. You name the figure. And the chances of them being caught are very, very small. So what we need to do to fight this is arm ourselves with the information and protect ourselves from becoming victims. So again, please report it to us. Follow your instincts. You're all smart people, and you know the gut instinct. They're going to push. Don't fall victim to it. You're not beholden to this. If it's really an issue, believe me, you're going to get served with legal process. All right? And legal process doesn't come in the next 5 minutes. All right? Speed of government, you're lucky if anything happens within 5 to 6 weeks. That's fast. So don't be pressured, right? If it's too good to be true, it probably is, right? Trust your instincts. You know what's going on. If something's telling you this isn't right, vet it out first. Trust but verify. And I think those are the, you know, the kind of broad parameters that we have that will really help you. And now we'll talk some more. My colleagues here are going to give you some more in-depth information on certain parts. But that's what I wanted to relay to you. You know, it's an honor to be your police department. We love this community. The men and women of the Clinton Police Department are really, really dedicated at trying to make this a better place for everybody. So, again, thank you for all being here. We really appreciate you being here. Thank you. So with that being said, do we follow the line? Or?
Yeah.
All right. Next, the world famous Mr. Steve West, former FBI agent, Clinton resident, and on the mend from a softball accident. Hockey. I'd say hockey. Thanks, Steve.
Right. So I'm not going to stand because I'm nursing a broken ankle here. So as Vin mentioned, I was with the FBI for about 22 years. Half of that I investigated fraud. I've been with Uber now for a little over 3.5 years, primarily investigating fraud and other issues that have a safety impact to the Uber platform itself. And one of the schemes we've gotten involved with probably over the last year, but it's really picked up since January, is what's known as the grandparent scheme. And if you're familiar with that, that's where you get a call. It's a loved one, typically a grandchild, who's been involved in an automobile accident with a DUI involving a pregnant woman. And they get on there and they hand the phone off to someone who alleges to be the lawyer who's arranged bail. And they want you to pay that bail. And it's, you know, and depending on what they think they can get out of you, I've seen $60,000 and I've seen $400,000. So they're willing to take anything you got. You know, and as the chief mentioned, they will press. You know, if you don't get the money here by like 1 o'clock, he or she's gonna have to spend another night in jail. My position is, if it's really happened, maybe that's what they need, is another night in jail, right? So like, that's what I tell my kids, you mess up, I'll help you long term, but maybe you just need a night to think about it.
When I get to it.
You're right, exactly. So as the chief mentioned, when you get these calls, be the best victim you can. You take notes, who's calling you, what number they're calling from, what are they telling you. Then when you hang up, you call a family member. If you can call the grandchild directly, even better. Their parent or somebody to verify that the story is true, because 99.9% chance and even 100, it's not the truth, right? So they're not in jail, they're not being held up, no one's calling you, and if the bond is $10,000, right, that's not what you pay in cash. You're paying a percentage of it, so no one's coming to your house to collect it. How is
The
Uber?
reason that one is, Steve, just that, if you pay that $10,000, as soon as that $10,000 gets there, you get another call, it went up because the person just died and the bond went up. So they're gonna keep coming back to the well, and they're gonna keep tapping it until you say no mas.
That is 100%. And how Uber is involved is to give an air of legitimacy to the scam. They're using rideshare companies. It's just not Uber, it's Lyft, it's other similar companies. And what the lawyer or the bail bondsman says that we're gonna send a courier by to pick it up. And just like every other thing since the pandemic, all Uber and all these other companies, we've gotten involved with package delivery to fill the gap, which maybe like old bicycle couriers used to do same-day delivery. So they set up fake rider accounts, or they use networks of people they know to arrange the ride, to go pick up the money, and then deliver it where they're waiting, usually in some public location like a strip mall, because they probably got 5 other trips out there that are coming in from all over the place, right? And as the chief mentioned, usually if you pay, within the hour, you're gonna get a second call. The baby just died, and it's been, bail's been raised. And I've seen a number of times where they try to alternate between our company and another company, probably to try to bury the little bit of having a trip to the same location. But they press, and the time is the issue. And so it becomes an issue for us. And I don't want to tell you how we've detected some of this is going on, because I don't want to give away the secret, but our team did pick up on some patterns which indicate to us that this is a fraudulent trip involved. So since about mid-March, we have an alert system that tells us that, hey, I get an internal text saying, like, we have a live trip that we think it may be involved. I take a look at it, if it fits the pattern, there's a certain group we're looking at, we're working with the FBI and locals, and this is happening all over the country. They're hitting everywhere. And it did seem like a little bit they were following a snowbird pattern. Like in November, in December, they were hitting Massachusetts and the rest of New England pretty heavily. And then all of a sudden, like mid-January, everything was in Florida, right? So and they have intel, right? I mean, it used to be, they would call, hey, Grandpa, and you would go, Joey? Yeah, it's Joey, right? Now they know. They know the name, they know the family members. They're doing their research, whether it's through data breaches, Coleman obituaries, or however they're getting it. They front the name first, which is why people are falling for this. And probably within the last month, it also appears that they're using artificial intelligence to clone the voices. And how does that happen? Everyone probably gets these phantom calls, right? The phone number rings, and you pick it up and you go, hello, right? No one's there, and you keep saying hello, hello, and they're getting your voice pattern. And they collect it. Because we had a family member I talked to, and the family all got together, and the grandson, who was the one supposedly in jail, said, like, I got a call like about 10 days ago, and it was something like to that effect. And people are, and I'll get into it how I interact with the victims on this in a moment, but each of the victims I talk to, they swear that they have talked to their grandchild. One individual said his grandson's like a 6'5" college baseball player, has a very distinct, deep voice, and whoever he was speaking to sounded just like that. So they know. So they have upped their game, and they evolve. Like I mentioned, I worked fraud for at least half my time in the FBI. Fraudsters evolve. So every time law enforcement and private industries and citizens put things in place, it's never going to stop it. It's only going to slow it down to evolve. So you need to always take that time, step back, digest what they're telling you, right? There used to be a saying on the range, right? Smooth is fast, right? If you hurry, you're going to make mistakes. Someone's going to get hurt. It's the same thing. You want to take your information, move smoothly, but you don't want to rush into it. There's nothing that's going to happen in an instant. So you take that time. right? So as I mentioned, we started about mid-March based on this pattern we detected, and it's kind of a mad scramble on our part, where we are trying to, one, we notify our public safety team, reaches out and try to contact local law enforcement so they could get a unit out to the victim location, which is marked on the trip as the pickup location. And then also trying to coordinate to get someone to respond to what's the drop-off location, which may be in an entirely different jurisdiction, so they may have to call another agency. My team technically tries to shut down the trip or call the driver to get them to stop to even go to that location. And why it's also a concern to Uber is that we've had a number of instances where law enforcement thinks the Uber driver's involved, just because that's showing up, and they're putting be on the lookout reports for our driver who has no clue that he's one, right? And that could cause a safety issue. We've had family members thinking that the driver was involved, trying to rip off their father or grandparent and wanted to do harm to the driver. So we try to get involved. So, based off the pickup location, I try to use open source information to find a contact number, if it's for your address, to call and say, hey, I'm Steve West, I'm retired FBI, I work for Uber and security, we have someone coming to your house and we think it's tied to a scam. And you can imagine a lot of people now think I'm in on the scam, even though I'm not asking a thing other than you not.
Steve West, okay.
Yeah, correct. Sounds made up, Adam West. Hey, Batman. But all I ever ask is, do not give your money out. And I try to explain to them, like, someone called saying your loved one was in a car accident, and a pregnant woman, like, how do you know? I'm like, because I've done this a bit now, and I was dealing with this when I was with the Bureau. So it's a mad scramble to do it. And then, again, they're pushing for time. They don't want, it's usually in those banking hours. So the reason why I'm calling is because there's a gap in time before maybe Clinton police can get someone out there. And if, we have a liability, so we shut down the trip, they will call another company to come do it in that time. So that's why we're scrambling to do it. Since March, we've stopped maybe 35 of our trips, like all around the country, and prevented over $200,000 from going out either directly or having, if our driver already got there, bring the money to the police department and bring it back to the victim. It could have been more, except for when we stopped our end, they got another company there ahead of time. So it'd probably be closer to, 300,000. And I suspect, because of the efforts we're doing, like we were doing 4 a day for the first few weeks. Now it's maybe once, twice a week, and that might be out of necessity based on Uber has more drivers in a certain area than another company. But they know we're on to them, and the reason why I know is the bad guys called me. This is how tenacious they are. Because we had an instance where they had a victim in a senior living facility in Kentucky. I called the front desk, the receptionist, as I was talking to her, the victim's outside talking to our driver, who thankfully on his own rejected because he's like, I don't pick up packages. But she's telling the victim that you got to call this guy Steve West with Global Security, here's his number, and the victim's on the phone with the bad guy. And, and he's like, bug off kind of thing, right? So he didn't listen to her, and he eventually gave his money to someone else. Another driver showed up. But within the hour, I got a call, and I knew right away, I'm like looking at the number, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great. This is either them thinking I'm someone they can scam, or they know it's me, right? And they did. They asked for Steve West with Global Security. And I said, who's this? And the guys, Mike. I go, okay, Mike, what do you want? He's like, you called me. I'm like, did I? When? Right? He's trying to bait me into giving up the details because he must have overheard the conversation that the receptionist was having a victim. So this demonstrates how far they're willing to push it. right? This isn't, typically it's not a one-off person doing themselves. We know this is a network of folks. We're working with local and federal authorities to try to identify as many of them as possible, you know, bring them in, hopefully like on wire fraud charges, and lock them up. But it's a network, and they keep going and going and going, and they don't care because, look, each time the average is about $10,000. There was an instance outside of Tampa, some victim, $700,000. They went back to her over and over again. So once they figure they have you pegged, they will keep coming. So you need to really slow down and say, like, all right, got your information, and then think about it, contact a loved one, and then once you realize it's a fraud, you contact local law enforcement, and it's much information. That's why if you write it down, it helps them to act. So if you do give it to a courier, like car, license plate, because then Clinton Police can contact me, like, hey, did you have a driver go to this location, like in the license plate's an easy lookup for me. So I'm like, yeah, and he's going to this location. So like he can coordinate if they're going down to Stanford or the Bronx or somewhere else and they get time because they just picked it up like an hour ago. Like you can head it off at the pass. So as much information you can to write it down when it's happening. And if they're talking to you, tell them, oh, hold on, I want to get a pad and pen, right? You want to take it down so I get it right. And you laugh. Yeah, they might hang up. I had one, and there's another side story, and we'll show this video. But when I was in the FBI, they called me on my FBI-issued cell phone for the IRS scam, telling me that the FBI was going to arrest me if I didn't pay my taxes. To which I responded, really? I said, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I go, all right, how much do I owe? They go, $7,500. I'm like, okay. I'll meet you tomorrow at 600 State Street in New Haven. And the guy goes, what? I go, yeah. I go, if I'm going to pay you and the FBI is going to arrest me, I want to make sure they see me. So we're going to do this in front of the FBI office. He hung up on me. I called him back. And I said, geez, I must be in a bad area. And he's like, what? And I go, we're going to meet tomorrow at 11 in the FBI building, right? He goes, you don't call there anymore. And I go, you don't call me either again, buddy. Because if I find you, you're going away. So, did you have that video?
Yep. Yeah. This is my first time trying this, so let me just give you a minute. I wanted to say this is so simple, but when I was a kid, we had a password in my family because someone, pre-Uber, when I was in 6th grade, just a crank caller, probably someone I went to school with, started crank calling my grandmother, pretending to be me, sounding like my voice. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
You use
Oh, yes, Maureen. Oh, difficult.
Sorry. It's just so simple, but maybe if you and your family members, the key ones that you would be nervous that would contact you about this and you would just go and act out of love, come up with a passcode. I feel safe telling everyone mine was peanut butter and jelly. You could use that or you could pick your own. But this way, it's a little bit of a stopgap, right? If you have someone saying, you know, like you were saying, the AI, they use the voice, well, you know, is there some kind of identifier that only you and, you know, your grandkids or your loved ones know? Okay, I'll try to get this going.
That's actually a fantastic idea.
Just to kind of reiterate a couple of points that we had here. In all these instances, time is your friend, okay? Time is your friend. Slow it down, okay? We don't need to make that decision right away. There is nothing that can't wait 24 hours, guaranteed. Nothing. Nobody's going to come shoot you. They're not going to send a SWAT team to your house. It's not going to happen. So time is your friend. Slow it down. And everybody is on social media. I don't care if you have a social media account or not. Somebody in your family's got one. Your grandkids, your great-grandkids, your aunt, your sister, your friends, whoever. All that metadata can be pulled off of the websites. So I guarantee it shows up and it's out there. So before we get into this video, I want to quickly introduce our SRO, Brian Corbin, and our new emotional support dog, Jagger, who was a rescue dog. We've trained him up, and we've got him up in the high school and throughout the public school system. and they're really loving them there. I get, COVID it impacted everybody, but it really had a pretty harsh impact on our kids. So he's been doing a lot of good work up there at the school, just kind of bringing down the temperature a little bit. So another selfless plug. We're going to try and keep doing them here. I should have been a used car salesman, but I ended up being a police chief. So anyway, I guess we'll run the video now, and we just want to introduce him again. So Brian is stationed at the high school, but he does take care of the entire district. And post-COVID, he and our youth officer, Corporal Maggs, have been probably the busiest two guys in the police department. We've seen a lot of uptick in, kids having a lot of crisis. So this is another one of our attempts to try and get everybody back on track and get back to some semblance of normal, whatever that is.
So this is just a brief clip. It was essentially a story related to the first day we turned on the alert system in Brevard County, Florida. And the sheriff's office jumped right out on it, and I believe we stopped like $12,000 going out that day. But it just shows how we try to engage with local law enforcement. We have a small FBI field office and other officers employed on our team. So at least personally for me, this makes me feel like I'm still on the job a little bit, doing good, rather than just collecting a check. So I mean, it's good. It's good we win. But as I tell everyone, one loss hurts as good as 10 wins feels good, right? So we hate to see anyone lose their money, because we know, look, at this point, it's tough to make it up. A lot of instances when I've talked to someone, it was everything they had in the account, right? So how do you make up that money? Which is when I was still at the FBI, some of the very heated conversations I had with the prosecutors about when it was, it's just, it doesn't meet the threshold. I'm like, first of all, you think it's just one victim, right? And $10,000 to you is like $1 million to somebody else, right? And that's how it should be the impact of the harm, and it shouldn't just rely on like the numeric value. It's what's the impact to someone. If it's everything they got, if it's $400, if it's $4,000, $40,000, whatever it is, that should be the measuring stick, is the harm it caused. So it finally seems like everyone's kind of on the same page now, which is good. It's getting a lot of attention. So hopefully we can see some of these folks do some time when this is all said and done.
The moment it was turned on.
Engineers at Uber Rideshare now have an alert system to help law enforcement get a hop on the bad guys. And as West 2's Scott Heidler reports, the first case was in Brevard County.
Fraudsters stay on the cutting edge of technology in their attempt to bilk money from consumers. But rideshare company Uber has one-upped them with a brand new technology. Worked with the Brevard County Sheriff's Office on a case of elderly fraud.
They would call them and say, hey, your grandson's been arrested, right? He ran into a pregnant woman, and we need $10,000 bond to get him out of jail.
The criminals would then send Uber, other rideshare services, or courier to pick up the money.
So my investigators went and looked at these trips, and they identified a signature for them, kind of like a digital fingerprint.
Lissy, a former FBI agent, won't go into the detail of the patterns to not tip off those behind the schemes. Uber engineers created an alert system for that digital fingerprint covering the 1 million global trips every hour. And immediately once it was turned on, the first alert came from Brevard County last week. So the company alerted the sheriff's office.
In this case, we were successful in stopping that money drop and actually getting the money back to the victims.
The sheriff's office saying that would never have happened if they did not get the call from Uber and have some advice on how to avoid falling into some of these traps.
In most of these cases, I would say almost all of these cases where they're talking about you bringing money to someone to pay for a bail or to pay a warrant so that you get out of it, or jury duty or any of those things, that's a scam.
If you are suspicious, call local law enforcement on the published number, not the one given to you by the caller.
With it happening on the front end and the rideshare company contacting us on the front end, it's going to really make it a lot easier for us to stop the money actually getting to the bad guy.
In Brevard County, Scott Heidler, West 2 News.
The last thing I just want to add is, you know, a lot of people think I'm never going to fall for it, and they do. We had one victim I talked to him. The guy was a retired banker who dealt with fraud, and had I not called him, he was literally about to put the money into the front seat of the Courier. It's because he said they were just so convincing, and each time that he thought, this is going to be a fraud, they would say something that talked him out of what his gut was telling him. So you can't say to yourself, I would never fall for it, and just assume it's going to go, because until you're under the pressure of the tactics they're going to use, you don't know. And again, it's just slow it down. And I'll say it again, like, look, and if it's true, again, maybe the kid needs to spend a night in jail to think about his future. So, like, you get to him the next day. Don't worry about it. So you know, because he'll be the next day safe and sound in the local lockup, and your money will be safe. So that's, you just, again, everyone falls for it. My father's a retired deputy chief from the town I grew up in. I called him to make sure, like, look, I know you think you're on top of things, but this AI stuff really concerns me. Because you're going to call from someone that you're going to think it's one of your grandkids. You better call me or your other son to make sure first, because it's most likely a scam. And second of all, if it is my kid that did this, I don't want you to bail them out. Right? So again, sometimes it's life's lessons are better learned hard. So that's really what I had to say about this. I don't know. Yes?
About this AI stuff, is this just on TV, or can they actually clone the kid's phone so you think the number is actually coming from a relative?
Yeah, the cloning the number is pretty easy. I mean, you can go on to even you know, what they call voice over internet protocol, VoIP numbers, right? You can make up numbers you want. They have other things going. But again, what's more concerning? Well, step back. Again, you get that call. It looks like the number.
Right.
Hang up, and then call the number itself, right? That you know that's for your grandchild or loved one. But the AI now of the cloning of the voice, and I think there's even an app out there that's allowing people to do this, right? And I always refer to like the Oppenheimer effect, right? He created nuclear energy, which became the bomb. Anything that's good, it becomes weaponized. Like the majority of stuff I work at Uber, it's, you know, if you're a victim of a data breach and your identity is stolen, that tends to get weaponized against our company and other companies. They use that to try to create fake accounts, you know, fake driver's licenses based on all the information, whether it's a DMV hack or something out there. Again, the bad guys evolve. You know, you've probably seen some of it. There'll probably be a time where even if you went to FaceTime, I mean, they can deep fake videos now, right? And that seem convincing. So you need to just slow down and listen to what your brain and your gut's telling you.
I have wondered, anytime they've asked on a piece of paper, whether it's the doctor's office or where it might be, put your social security number in. And I've always been angry that that's been asked, and I never put more than the last 4 digits. Does that help or not?
It could. I always ask the same thing when, like, even at the cash register, they ask me, like, oh, what's your telephone number? I'm like, why do you need that? I'm super jaded, so it's like I think everyone's trying to rip me off, so I'm always like, why do you need that information? Yeah, it's right. But on the other hand, I've also gone a little bit the other way, because as I mentioned earlier, I think my family's been hit in 3 different hacks. I forget what year it was. The federal government database containing information regarding all its employees were hacked. So all my information, because having a security clearance about my entire family, relatives and everything, gets leaked out there. Blue Cross Blue Shield got hacked. There was another hack. Yes. So I just work off the assumption that my stuff's out there. They've had at least one of my 3 kids, and I don't know why it's particularly this one, but her information seems to be used over and over again. She's 17 now, but when she was 9 after one of these hacks, I got a call, I think it was from like TransUnion or someone saying like, oh, your daughter's date of birth is this? I'm like, yes. I'm like, why? I'm like, oh, someone just applied to get a car using her information. So we're gonna check to see if this is fraud. I'm like, well, you just told me her date of birth and she's 9. So let's just jump to the fact that it's fraud. And I have no financial stake in LifeLock, but of all the companies that I've tried for monitoring, LifeLock works the best. Because when I was actually buying a car and I was in the dealership signing paperwork, and as soon as they put through the thing, I got a call on my phone from LifeLock saying, hey, someone's trying to buy a car. I'm like, yeah, it's me. And I freeze all my credit. If you go to all 3 credit bureaus and you freeze your credit history, that prevents someone from opening a new line of credit. Because what's most important is that most criminals aren't going to go after the money you have in your account because they'll use this grandparent scheme or someone else to go in. It's to use your identity to open up new accounts, get lines of credit, get a mortgage, something else that you don't even know about until it goes bad, until you have a debt collector or someone else showing up at your door. And it's also a big concern for children, for minors, because often they don't know that their social security number has been used for a loan until they go to apply for financial aid for college. So once a year I write and have see if there's a credit history for my 3 kids, because if there is, then there's a problem. So that's something I always do, because it's just from dealing with this, I'm just ultimately paranoid. Yes?
In another town in Connecticut, some relatives, the other grandparents, got the call about the grandson, and he just got hysterical, the grandfather. But he called his son. His son got the number, called back, and acted like you. He just handled it very well. So they shut him down. He said, I know what you're doing again. But they called back the grandparents and threatened them that they were outside the front of their house coming out. And I was wondering if either of you had dealt with that or that also terrified them.
I haven't, but I will tell you that most of these groups are not in the area. And the fact that they tend to be using couriers show like they're usually, what I've seen, they're usually actually like 90 minutes plus away, because they got one courier from coming this part of the state, another one coming here, and they're using some central drop. But also, they're just trying to intimidate you to get the money, because they also realize they don't want to get caught, which is why they're not the ones picking up the money, right? They're trying to layer themselves out and do it. And then ultimately the groups controlling it are usually outside the country. But it's, I would never say never to anything like that, because who knows, but it would be extremely rare to me that they would actually come looking for you, because they got 10 other people they're ripping off right now that like, okay, we lost her, but we got 10 other drops coming, so like it's the cost of doing business.
And it's extremely rare that anybody is violent in this. It gets sophisticated. We had actually one case where they called the police department for a welfare check, was on the phone with the victim, and said, well, the cops are pulling up in front of your house right now. He looks outside, and a marked car's pulling up because they set for a welfare check. But it's usually not violence associated with it. And again, I think you break down this scam, right? Number one, I'm getting a call. Is my grandchild in Mexico? Would they have any need to be on vacation in Mexico?
He said.
Right, yeah, correct. It's going to be someplace far away that you don't have easy access to, right? So that's the first red flag, right? Well, wait a second. They should be at home, or they should be in high school, or they should be, or they're in the crib, for God's sake, so they even know what it's going to be. Figure that out, right? And then secondly, like Steve said, we're not going to talk to this person anymore. Okay, I got the information. You know what? I'm going to go secure financing. I'll call you back later. Now, let me just make sure I got the right, where, this is San Jose Police Department, San Jose, Mexico, okay, well, we'll say Mexico, but wherever it's gonna be. Go to the published number for that agency. Call up and say, I just received a call from Detective Jones who says that, you're holding my grandson or my granddaughter in custody. They're gonna go, what the hell are you talking about? So, pretty easily to get past it. Again, time is our friend, right? Trust but verify. Okay, this may be true, probably not, but okay, let me vet it out.
I have a question. I've been getting emails that say that a purchase was made on my PayPal account or on my Venmo account. You can click here to there. I don't have a PayPal or Venmo account, so I just click it off. Does that mean that my information is hacked or that they're trying to get it?
They're trying to get it, so depending on your email could have came through any other data breach, whether it was something you registered at some other store you purchased, and then they're trying to get you to give more information or infect your computer with malware. Because one of the other scams that are going around is the Microsoft scam, right? Where like your computer stops working and then they're basically holding your computer at hostage, right? So that's the other thing. When it comes to the email, the other thing I like to do is, because they're going to try to mimic something you already know, but if you hover the little cursor over the email address, it will show you the real email.
Do you want me to show an example? Do you know what he means? Yeah. I don't know what's on my Gmail right now, but I'm just gonna put it out.
Another one is gonna be text. You get a lot of text, the same thing, right?
Okay.
Just ignore them. If it's really an issue, you're gonna get notified through either regular mail or another form, but 99.9% of those are scams as well. And if you click on a link, if you just get an email that says, hey, I haven't seen you in a while, here's some pictures we want you to look at, click on this link. Do not click on that link, because what you're going to do is get your computer infected with malware and spyware, and they're going to capture all your keystrokes, find out what your passwords are, and exploit your information that way.
Just pay special attention. This has saved my dad a lot, because we share some accounts, and he'll say, they're shutting off NetZero, or they're asking me for prying, and I'm like, it's not. They could make this part look like anything they want. Okay, so you either have to look between the brackets, or sometimes you have to hover. This is the email that it's coming from. So oftentimes he'll think he's getting something from NetZero or Prime or the bank, and then it's like X57, it's like some crazy email that it's just a quick de-escalator. Then you know, okay, it's not them. Like, I'll see if I have another example. Like, this is from Apple Pay. I can see the email it's coming from. Okay, that it's Apple Pay. Otherwise, like I said, the bold might look like it's coming from Apple Pay. They might even be able to show the little logo, but you have to look at where it's actually originating. That's like just another tip that helps me delete things quicker than unique
Again, realize that as a government entity, you have a .gov address at the end of it. Some municipalities like ours are .org, but if it's a Yahoo, a .com, those email addresses that you can make, it can be anybody, Yahoo, Gmail, all those, Apple, you can make up and say whoever you want to be. So those are going to be legitimate entities the majority of the time.
But you still should really look at the spelling it, because I've seen like a lot of these what they call business email compromises. So they're really meant to target companies, and we've seen them at Uber. Is that they can register a domain like anywhere through GoDaddy or any of these other places, and they can make a name that even looks legit, right? Yeah, one character off. Like they might do Apple with 3 P's or 2 L's, and when you're quickly looking at it, your eye's mind wants to see what it thinks it sees sometimes, right? And so it's counting on you to just make that mistake. Or sometimes a company that's West.Inc., they'll do one that's westllc.com, right? And you're thinking like, oh, you're getting an email from this company, and it's really them. Because they tend to want to target a lot of smaller firms. They target a lot of attorneys that do real estate closings. So they try to get you to send your money to for the closing to their bank account rather than to the escrow account. And as far as like emails, we're talking about boats a few years ago when I was in the market for a boat. I got an email from a local dealership, and I thought it was strange because there was a spreadsheet attached to it. I'm like, this is strange that some company would just send a spreadsheet, right? And I'm like, and I Googled over it, and just coincidentally, this was right around the time of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and I saw that the real address was .ru. And of course, I'm like, oh, these guys. I'm like, here we go, right? They're going to try to, like, get us all stirred up over here and distracted from what's going on. And I called the company, and they said, like, oh, you're like the 10th person to call today. And like, yeah, but I'm retired FBI. I'm telling you, it's from a Russian account right now, so you should probably have the bureau come over. Your server was probably hacked, and they're sending stuff out to make it look like you. So again, they just keep coming and coming and coming, and some of it's criminals and some of it's state-sponsored. So you just have to, again, it's all about slowing it down. Slow it down, check it. A FedEx package, why? Like, what the hell am I getting a FedEx package for, right? Like, just click on this link and see and track it. I'm like, I don't have anything coming FedEx, so like, delete. So those are all. It's just really all about slowing it down, digesting the information, and pretend you're from Kansas, right? The show me state. Show me. Like, why is this?
Wait a minute, that's Missouri.
Is it Missouri? All right. All right. What does a guy from Boston know? It's all the same to me. You're landlocked. I probably talked more than enough here.
What is Kansas, the Prairie State? Anyway, Jayhawks, that's it. All right.
It's all flat and cold to me. I don't know.
A lot of cornfields and.
Hi.
Flex.
I have a Facebook account, and I like Facebook, but I had several scams on Facebook. Some of my family lives in Germany, and someone tried to friend me several years ago. And I thought, well, he must be linked to one of my relatives. But he wasn't. He was one of those people who wanted to find a girlfriend. Someone and maybe steal their money. So finally, I just got rid of that and told him never to write to me again. And now recent things on Facebook that are just annoying me so much. They've been copying my Facebook page, starting another one with my name changed a tiny bit. And that, I understand from one of my daughters, that's to get all my contacts into that new page to contact. So I get emails from my friends saying, hey, is your page hacked? We just got a friend request from you, where I've already been friends with them. Now, Facebook seems not to help you with any of that. And I just wondered if you knew how you could get help to get those other pages out of there.
I mean, I really can't speak to what Meta or Facebook does. I mean, I know they have folks there to do their own investigations. Some of it's the bandwidth of the resource, because how big is Facebook, right, worldwide? How many of these things are happening? And it's tough to keep up with, so I'm not sure. Personally, I'm a guy who's every other day, I'm getting rid of my account. Right? I'm just like, what am I doing here? And I usually don't put much on it. I usually see what other people up to it, or I use it more to watch, see like what events are coming locally to do it. But yeah, it's tough. I mean, part of what they're doing is either to get your contacts. The big thing to watch out, I find with Facebook, is Facebook Messenger. Right, when people send you like a video or something to look at, and if they're using your cloned account to send people videos and they click on it, it's intended to infect their computer or put some spyware on there. So again, like I have, like at home, again, I'm probably way over the top with a lot of stuff. We have a laptop, and when my family, like, I tell them, like, I don't want you guys using it. You all have your own stuff, but this is something I use for banking and otherwise. I don't want whatever you're doing for school, because anything that's a public access point, schools, libraries, hotels, like don't ever go on the hotel Wi-Fi. It's like the worst. It's free, but nothing in life is free, right? It's going to cost you in the end. You don't, it's not worth it. Unless you have, and if you're tech savvy enough to have a VPN, a virtual private network, that you can basically protect you when you log in, it's not worth it. Oddly enough, using your cell data is better than logging on to free Wi-Fi, because the free Wi-Fi means someone else is sitting there, they could potentially capture what you're putting out over there, and it jeopardizes.
Really quick question on that. Does that last forever, or is it only while you're in the hotel that somebody could hack?
It's while you're there and logged on, they could do a number of different things. They can capture, like, potentially capture whatever you're sending out. They could use it to potentially put something onto your laptop. It depends on what it goes through. They can put themselves as what's referred to like man in the middle, where they sit between, they inject themselves between the hotel's router and you, and it flows through them first. So it's probably one of the worst things you can do to jeopardize the privacy and safety of your devices.
Can we save the rest of the questions to the end so we can continue? We have just a few more topics that we might answer with Angela, and then we can do more question and answers.
All right, everybody, if we can take our seats again, we're going to have Angela DeLeon, who's been patiently waiting here to present her information, and it's always good. It's always informative. So let's welcome her and lend her an ear.
Okay, thank you all for everybody sitting down again. And I have to tell you, you all thought that today was going to be free. It's not. That's the surprise.
We scammed you.
we scammed you. No, but what we want you to do is we want you to share this information with a friend, okay? One friend, two friends, whatever. But we want you to get the word out there, because your best protection against scams and fraud is awareness. Making people aware that this is happening out there, and it could possibly happen to them unless they're aware. So that's what we're providing you with today, the weapon of awareness. So we don't want you to go home and say, you know what, they scared the living dickens out of me today, and I'm not going to sleep tonight. You guys are going to sleep like babies because you're armed with the weapon of awareness.
Even if you just remember a couple things.
Yeah, that you can share, that you can actually share with somebody. This is so important to do. Steve was talking about obituary, that people get a lot of information from obituaries. I clipped an obituary out of the paper the other day. And do you know the amount of information that a bad guy can get, or a bad woman? You know, it's not always guys who are bad. Women can be pretty bad too. But the amount of information, you've got their name, of course, the person who passed away, their spouse's name, if the spouse is still alive, okay? You've got the children and their spouses. You've got the names of the grandchildren. You've got what organizations they were very interested in. And so a lot of information in an obituary. Okay, so that's something I would pass on to my friends. Do not put that much information in the local paper, because that is where a lot of the bad guys get their information from. So beware. Okay. I don't know if any of you are watching television or listening to the radio and recently heard about all the purse snatchings in the area. That's why we sent this. Thank you, Christina, for printing it, and Joanne. Pardon? You don't carry a purse? The best thing to do is not carry a purse.
My license, my medical insurance card, and a credit card.
Exactly. You really, how not to become a victim of a purse snatching? Don't carry a purse, okay? Carrying a purse is like hearing a neon sign that invites someone to mug you. Now, where are they doing this? One, in grocery stores. I mean, I worked for People's for 27 years, and I did crime prevention for People's. And we used to do what was called purse patrols. And I would bring an officer with me, and we would do a purse patrol throughout a grocery store and tap on people's shoulder and say, "Did you look at your purse recently?" And they'd be panicked, no, you know. And on the cart, I would have a picture of an eye, and it would say, "Keep an eye on your purse." And then the officer would come up and say, in the time that it took her to put that sticker on your cart, your purse could have been long gone. And as Steve was saying, and Chief, they are not looking for even the 20 bucks that you've got in your purse. I mean, people say to me, "Angela, I don't have any money in my purse. What do they want my purse for?" Well, first of all, you don't have a sign on your pocketbook that says, "I've only got 20 bucks, okay? They're not looking for the money. What they're looking for is the information that they can get that's in your purse that they can actually steal your identity, okay? You know, now they don't care about what is in the purse, okay? They care about what type of information you have in the pocketbook so that they can actually steal your identity. So beware, be very, very careful. You know, don't leave your purses in the child safety seat. Yeah, you know.
I had a lady come up to me one time and said, this was a while back.
Yeah.
Any of this is going on.
I have want to see how quick they can do it. We're talking parking lots.
She has a video here of a parking lot, and it can show you how quickly they can steal your purse.
So this was at BJ's, it was on the news, so you probably saw it.
I think it was at the end of May. It was an 84-year-old woman. Oh, thank you, Chief. Just loading her car, you know, and it's hard to do two things at once, right? So you have your purse on your shoulder and you're putting your bags in. I don't even think you need the sound. I'll just play the video. The car pulls up, yanks it right off her shoulder, gone.
Actually, I saw it right in front of me. One day I was in Fairfield shopping, and this woman had her purse stolen. Two people in a car, one of them jumped out of the car, grabbed her purse, jumped back in the car, and away they sped away. Within seconds, her purse was gone.
Stolen Kia, by the way.
Pardon?
Stolen Kia. That was what they were driving.
There was a stolen Kia? Ah.
Oh, in that clip, yeah. Really? Oh my God. So it's like insult upon injury.
Oh my gosh. So where are they stealing purses? In grocery stores, in parking lots, churches. Okay, Sunday mornings, you're walking up to communion, walking up to service, whatever. Leave your purse in the pew. How do you know everybody in church? Okay? You don't today. It's a great place to steal purses because everybody thinks nobody's ever going to steal something in a house of God. Forget about it. They will.
And even here.
Even here?
Here.
At Town Hall?
Right now, in this group.
Oh, well, I hope not, but
It's not these people.
yeah.
People that are going to take advantage of us.
Right, exactly. And we are the age group of choice of most scam artists. People over 50. And I won't tell you how many years over 50. 2 or 3, right. Okay, so also in gas stations. You know when you get out to pump your gas? You get out of the car, you never lock your car, you've got your purse in there, you've got your little card with you. They come, sneak around the car, grab your pocketbook, and away they go. They took my friend's car. She left her keys in the car. She was, pumping the gas, all of a sudden, goodbye car. Another friend of mine lost her car. and she went to a car wash. And you know, the car wash, sometimes they take the car from you and finish doing whatever they have to do, clean the inside. Well, guess what? The person did not work for the car wash. And away she saw her BMW going down the street. So really, you just have to be aware these days. So let's talk about how, if you are still, and I know a lot of you because I see the purses on the floor, if you're still going to carry a purse, let's talk about how you cannot get hurt if someone tries to steal your purse. Can I borrow somebody's purse with a long strap? Okay, great.
Should I trust you?
Very wise question. Very wise question.
I think she has her rock collection in her pocketbook. Oh yeah, this thing is heavy. Okay, so what happens if someone tries to steal your purse and you're carrying your purse this way? Okay, now they're going to really rip this thing off your arm, correctly? And what's going to happen to your shoulder? You're going to get hurt, okay? Our bones are a little fragile these days, so you don't want that to happen. Now, a lot of gals carry their purse in this manner, and they think, oh, I'm really safe. So you're walking in the parking lot of a grocery store or Kohl's or whatever, and you know what? They may be very high on drugs. So they're not going to see this thing around your neck, and they're really not going to care if they hurt you anyway. All they want is what's in your purse. They go to grab your pocketbook, what's going to happen to your neck? You're going to get really hurt. Well, they can do that, But my mom used to carry her purse this way, okay? And I would say to her, Mom, be really careful. She said, who's going to bother me? Yeah, right. Okay? But you carry your purse in this manner, they go to grab your pocketbook, what happens to your hand? You're going to get really, really hurt. So if you are still going to carry a purse after this demonstration, which I don't think you should do, put some things that are important in your pockets, okay? Carry the purse in this manner as though you were carrying a football, okay? So if they go to grab your purse, want to grab that? Guess what? They've got your purse. Don't fight them, let them have it, but you're fine, okay? And you're not going to spend 6 months in a rehab. Wait a minute, we work together. Okay, so we're going to talk about romance scams now. And I have to tell you, smart people are falling for romance scams. I had a call from one of my friends the other day. The other morning, it was a Sunday morning actually. And she said to me, Ange, I met the nicest guy. I said, hey, Kat, that's really nice. Good for you. She said, yeah. She said, he saw my picture on the internet. And she said, he said, I have a really nice smile. I said, great, Kat. Guess what? He's going to tell you you've got a really nice pocket, too. Because that's what he's going to try to get into, your pocket, and steal your money. I said, Kathy, it's a scam. She said, really? Yeah, it's a scam. Be careful. Everyone wants someone in their life to care about and to care about them, okay? be very, very careful with these romance scams because they are, right now, they are taking $304 million of our money. Do you want to say anything about that? Have you?
It just goes to the same thing of it's too good to be true. You can't kick the tires on it. Before you separate yourself from your money, is to slow down and think about what's going on. Like if you just met someone you fell in love with, and the first thing they're hitting you up for money, and like even if it was legit, I don't know if that's the relationship you want to go down, right? Like you're forever taking care of this person right off the bat. You work too hard for it. You know, don't give it up so easily. I mean, it's just, you know, I try to explain this even to my kids. These things are the greatest and worst invention of all time, right? It's people mistake, you know, social media with social interaction, right? And it's brutal. You know, you got to interact with real people, and if someone's even if they're overseas, I mean, like logistically, how would that really work anyways, right? It's not real. It's not going to give you the connection you really want. So you need to think of how does this person, like how do they pick you out of like 1 million people on the internet? Like how does some person you don't even know saw your picture? Like that's cool. There's 1,000 images out there. Again, they're preying on you. A gentleman came up early, and I said, the frauds. There's two type of frauds, right? And it's either your purse strings or your heartstrings, right? You know, they're either getting you to go because you think a loved one's in danger, right? Or because you're motivated by a little bit of greed yourself, right? If someone comes up to you with a deal and it's too good to be true, as the chief mentioned, like everywhere else you're getting a 4% return, like, oh, this guy's offering me 10. Like, how is he coming up with the magic number that no one else seems to be coming up with? Well, you got to kick the tires on a little. And if someone starts pressuring you on something like, well, it's a limited time only, you got to get in today, you know what? I'll pass, right? Like if there's no urgency to it. But again, yeah, I mean, the criminals will stop at no lengths, right? And they don't care. They don't care that they're going to hurt you, right? And it's a shame. But it's like, again, like every day I almost start, but I want to throw this thing away, except for I'm so tethered to it with work and everything else now your whole life's gone, it's gone away. And one of the things I wanted to add about the purses, these things as well, right? You stop at pump gas, you leave this in, like a lot of them targeting phones. And if you don't have a passcode or something to lock your screen, you should get one. Like even if it's just a 4-digit one, to put it on there so your screen locks so they can't get it. Because there's so much information about you on these things now, right? The things you like, your social media accounts, and the fact, and here's a huge problem, is when you call to your bank now or one of your other services, what do they tell you? Like, I see you calling from a number on your account that we recognize. So they already have a method to authenticate who you are, right? So if they have that phone, that's a step already, and then they have all the other information, maybe help pass the secondary thing, right? And also, like if they text, the secondary factors, then the send you a code, they have that too. And you should also be aware, there's also a scam where they can clone your number. And the day I was having my ankle worked on, they were trying to contact me by my phone. They're like, oh, no, the text is going through. And I'm like, oh, here we go. Like, my phone number got ported. Like, I'm not getting calls. It turned out to be the doctor's office phones weren't working. But, like, I know there was a number of agents in New York that had their phones cloned. And how you know is, like, all of a sudden your phone stops working for no reason. And it's because they were able to convince some carrier to port your number over to another phone. And then everything's in the cloud now, right? So like now they have all the information. They call your bank, and they have the number. But if you passcode protect, like at least the hard phone, that's one stop. But, you should just be wary of, like, anyone who calls you and asks for information, like, out of the blue, that you have no prior contact with, of thinking, what's going on here? Why do they need this information? Yes?
Perhaps more mundane, they take your phone, they have your address. If your garage door opener is in your car, then they've got your home and perhaps you.
That is 100%, and I think most people realize the car break-ins along the shoreline now are out of control. And my car, because every bit of junk we have in our garage, I can't get my car in there. So my wife's always like, why don't you have the garage door opener in there? And like, because if someone breaks into my car, they'll be able to open up, get into the house pretty easily. Yeah, it's all those things that you just have to be mindful of.
Also, if they steal your purse and you have your keys in your purse, and they steal your car, which they will do because criminals pick their prey. I mean, they've watched you for a while. They just didn't pick you out in the parking lot. They've watched you get out of your car and so forth. So if your keys are in your car, what happened to one of our people was that her keys were in her purse. They stole her car while she was running into the store screaming that her purse was stolen. They stole her car, went to her house. Her husband was home. He thought it was her coming into the driveway. Very sweetly opened the door and they came in, beat him up, and stole things from the house. So you have to be really, really careful. And again, we're not trying to scare you, we're just trying to make you aware. And we're going to hold questions until the end. The other thing we want to talk about is shoulder surfing. This is something kind of new that's happening, and Christina was kind enough to pull this off the television yesterday so that you could see it. And what's happening is they are picking people out who are at the ATM machine, okay? And using their ATM card. They will shoulder surf, which means they'll look over your shoulder, see what PIN number you're putting in, because you forgot that you're supposed to put your hand over the PIN pad and protect the numbers that you're putting in. And then they will throw a $20 bill or whatever on the ground and say, oh, excuse me, ma'am, or sir, did you drop that? Now, who's not going to pick up a $20 bill that they think they lost, okay? So you go to pick up the $20 bill, they either grab your card out of the machine, because these people are criminals and they are smart. This is what they do for a living. Very quickly can do this. Take your card out, possibly just insert another card. The M&T cards now are bright green. They could just shove another one in there, a bright green card, and it's not your card, okay? But they've got your card, they've shoulder searched, they've got your PIN number. So the other thing is, let's talk about PIN numbers quickly. No, let me just tell them about PIN numbers. If your PIN number is 1234, something you can remember, and I have to tell you, from working in a bank, 50% of the people have 1234. Okay? Or something that can be easily related to you. For instance, the last 4 digits of your social security number. A lot of people use that because they're going to remember that. They're going to remember their address, okay? Easy. Nothing that can be associated with you should be your PIN number. But something that only you know the association, like it could be your mother's birth date, okay? What year she was born, what year your father was born, what year your oldest kid was born. That could be your PIN number. Nobody's going to pick that up, okay? But anything that they can easily associate with you, get down to the bank as soon as you can and get that PIN number changed. Your turn.
Nina Pineda and some on your side, always looking out for scams and schemes and to warn you about them. This one, using a distraction and without you ever realizing it, getting your bank PIN and then your bank accounts wiped out. And how they get the PIN, these robbers? Well, something called shoulder surfing. It has nothing to do with the beach. Here's Nina with the red flag.
My pocketbook is usually like this. She's constantly careful with her purse. But Nina Laurel believes two women pulled a fast one on her while she was talking to the teller at her bank. They could have been behind me. They could have watched what I was doing. The scheme to steal from her is the first reported in Staten Island, but it's been happening all over the city. The NYPD tweeted out this reenactment video of shoulder surfing and the distracting tactics that criminals use, like pointing to a bill they put on the floor to get you to look away before swiping your card. The NYPD say that 7 similar robberies in Brooklyn, 5 in Queens, 1 in Manhattan, and 2 in the Bronx. They got 10,000. Nina said she exited the bank and was here on the sidewalk when 2 women approached her asking for change for a $20 bill. And she was handing it to me. The other woman turned around and she's saying, change, change. Okay. And I says, oh, you want change? I took out my wallet. She gave the pair 2 tens for their 20 and went on with her day. I'm in ShopRite. Where the heck is my card? Now the card's missing. Now the card's missing. Missing but in use at 11:28, 1,000 withdrawn from the ATM right at the same branch. 11:35, 3,800 from a different location. 12:03, 4,700 from another teller. Finishing the fraud at 12:10. 500 out of an ATM. I went down to the bank with her. We called the police. But after filing a police report and submitting fraud claims, Citibank gave her back just 500. I have the letters of denial that they were not giving me my money back. I'm devastated by all this. I said I'm an ex-employee. She had worked for Citibank for 20 years. We took on her case. And within 24 hours, they got this letter from Citibank's executive response team saying, hello, you recently reached out to WABC TV regarding your concerns. Citibank apologized and said upon subsequent review, they decided to refund the claim for $10,000. She was excited, she was jumping up and down, she was crying. Oh, I felt vindicated because I didn't want to be looked at as a thief. So grateful. Thank you so much. Be aware of anyone around you. Don't be distracted by someone who says, oh, you dropped money or wants money or change or directions, whatever. And a lot of ATMs have a mirror near the screen. Look in it and see if someone's behind you. Also, cover up your hand while you punch in your PIN numbers. And never ever share your PIN. Our experience is banks won't cover losses if they believe you somehow enabled the fraud.
You know what? And they don't have to be in back of you, directly in back of you. They can use binoculars or they can use cameras. So beware. Be very, very careful.
So Angela, one more thing, it's even more important than shoulder surfing, is skimmers are a big part of stealing your information. So whenever you go to use an ATM, you usually just kind of pull on. If it's not flush mounted, a lot of them now you see are flush mounted, and that was to get rid of that card reader. What happened was they would be cloned. You put your card in, it wouldn't seem like the ATM was working, but that was a scammer placed that over. So if you just kind of pull on it, if it comes off, obviously we know it's a scam, but just something to check, something to get in the habit of doing.
I live in La La Land, okay, in Connecticut, in Monroe, and people are kind of not really aware of this happening in our town because it's like up in the sticks. 6 people so far victims of skimming in our town. 6 people. So they're not only skimming people in New Haven and Bridgeport and, Hartford. They're coming to the smaller towns, so beware.
Is it at a gas station?
Yep. You got a gas station.
Oh, gas station. Gas stations are notorious for having skimmers put on them because they come in the middle of the night. The other thing, and then I'm going to stop because we could go on for ages. be careful when you're sending money. You know, we all send, you know, birthday cards, big graduation, you know, you stick a $50 bill in for your grandchild or whatever. Don't do it. Don't do it. Be really, really careful. Because they're stealing money, especially cards, out of mailboxes. And the other thing is, if you pay your bills and you put that little red flag up on in the middle of the night, okay? They'll come and take whatever is in the mailbox. So don't do that. Okay, just gonna briefly tell you that Chief has done a program with me which is called the File of Life. And if you go over to the table, you can grab one of these, put all your personal information, your medical information on here in pencil so that it can be changed easily. And God forbid you're ever in a situation where it's a medical emergency and the police department, fire department, or EMS comes, they will see this on your refrigerator, take it with you to the hospital. When minutes count, this can save your life. So please make sure that y'all take one. Okay, Chief, do you have anything else to add?
Yes, just going back a step. Does the police department check the gas stations locally here to see if the scammers are in there? Because how do we know?
Well, basically, like I said, if you see the newer ATMs are all very flush mounted, and that's because there used to be the ones where you put your card in and it kind of was sticking out of the machine. So what would happen, it was mostly Romanians, I don't know why, but that's the scammers, and they worked on it, and it was just, they would mold a plastic piece that would go over the card reader, and they would come in the middle of the night and attach it. They'd leave it on for 24 hours or so, and that's 1,000 people probably coming in and using that. So just get in the habit of, you know, pulling on where you would put the card in, because that's where the reader sits. Sometimes there's a camera, that's why it's important that you would just cover, you know, put your hand out and then punch in your key code. Those are important things to do, and that's really how the majority of those things are going to happen. I want to alleviate any fears that you might have about these people stealing your purse, coming to your house. Those are really extremely, extremely rare cases. They rarely ever happen. Most of the time, your purse is out the window, not even a quarter of a mile down the road. They went through it and they took your pills if you had them, because I'm telling you, that's what they're stealing your purse for. They ain't stealing the purse for the $20. They're stealing it for your painkillers if they're in there. That's what they want. So it's a rare instance, but if it does happen, immediately notify the local police. Let them know that your car was stolen or your purse was stolen and your keys were taken. You're obviously going to want to change your locks in your house as a preventative measure, and let the police know. So this way we can put patrols by your house more frequently and check up. And obviously you'll let your neighbors know if they see anybody strange around your house, call the police right away.
Also, make a list and keep it somewhere very private in your house of your credit cards, the number to call if your credit card is ever lost or stolen, the number of your bank, so in case you have your checks in there, whatever, so that you can make those calls immediately, really quickly, and put a stop on the checks or the credit cards. They'll hot card them.
And the other thing I would just add, other than the ATM itself, I never use my debit card, because the debit card is your money. You know, for gas and everything else, I would use a credit card, because most credit cards have a type of guarantee, and if they run up a tab, that's on the credit card company, right? It's not taking your money that you have to fight to get back. Instead, with a credit card, you're just disputing the charge. So to me, that's a huge difference. Plus, you know, every credit card has some point system, so you get a benefit to it. But you know, what you don't want is your bank account information floating out there. So I try to tell my kids all the time, because they just have the debit cards. I'm like, if you know, they want their independence, right? So they don't want to have to come to me on everything. But I'm like, look, it's better if I buy it with a credit card company, and then you just pay me back, which Never really happens, but there's a crime unto itself. But I'm like, at least if there's a dispute, I can fight it back with the credit card company. But like your summer job money goes out the door if you gave someone your ATM number.
Is Venmo safe?
It's about as safe as anything else. When I use it, like everything I do is I select private. Like, and it's only like if you ever go on Venmo, it tells you all these transactions other people are sending other people money. I'm like, this is to me that makes me feel a little queasy. So like my stuff's set on private. You know, it is kind of the age of doing things, but at least there is, like, you can set up Venmo to go through use your credit card as your bank account. They hit you with a fee, but again, it goes into that same aspect of like, well, I think it's like a 3% fee or something, but if it gets hacked, it's on the credit card company as opposed to your bank account. And just even like Apple Pay, like it's two different schools of thought with that, right? You usually put a credit card number up to Apple, and then Apple gets charged. So there's a theory that adds a layer of protection because they may get the Apple Pay number, but doesn't directly, there's a gap where it can stop, where they get your actual credit card information. So there are little nuances with all that, but it all takes vigilant. Again, I'm over the board with stuff. Every day, I start my day, I look at my account, I look at my credit cards to see what's on there. My family doesn't necessarily like it at times because I'm like, who went to Walmart and bought $200 worth of junk? I know it's not the bad guy going to Walmart with this stuff. But it's the sooner you're onto it, the sooner law enforcement can do something with it. Even if you wire money to someone, there's a kill chain that the wire can get killed and the money back within the first 24 to 48 hours. If like you send it and all of a sudden you're like, oh, that was a big mistake, right? You know, you contact the PD, they can contact the FBI, the Secret Service, and someone to initiate that kill chain and stop it from completing the transaction. So there is a window with that stuff because it has to go through some clearing aspects of it. But after that 48 hours, I mean, then it's bye-bye. In the back?
Yeah, I was just going to add the recommendations regarding the obituary. If you put the calling hours and the funeral date and time there, have someone house it for you while you're in front of your house, like the calling hours or.
Please repeat the question.
So she stated, well, sorry, Chief. If on the obituary you state the calling hours of when the services are, then potential bad guys are going to know when you're not home, right?
It's true, I'd have somebody at the house during that time.
Making the coffee, watching the front door.
Without the engineer.
I also go old school. I always like leave, I use Alexa now and not the radio, but I always leave like something on. So like if someone comes in, like they take that pause, whether someone's in the house.
The other thing is, when you're leaving your house, even if you're going to, the senior center or whatever, keep your radio on. Or the television at night, so that, the reflection shows outside the house, the television. Looks like somebody's home. They don't want to break into a house where they have to tie up somebody in the whole day, It's a lot of work.
Really, and you gotta kind of get that out of your mindset. That's a very old methodology of crime. People are not breaking into houses anymore. They really aren't doing that very frequently. Home invasions are very rare, and they're usually associated with that person's lifestyle. They're drug dealers, they're people that are associated with that crowd. People know there's large sums of cash or large sums of drugs. They break into the house. It's very rare that randomly somebody's going to show up at your house on a home invasion. Yes.
I'd just like to add one other thing. If you use a GPS in your car or even your Google Maps, when you put in your home address, put in the police station.
Send them to us. Get straight.
Or town hall in Clinton, because certainly you know how to get to your house.
Because if somebody steals your car and they press home, they know right where to go.
Yes, ma'am.
One of the things that you did not cover, and I don't know how true it is, but I've been told that they are listening to our conversations.
Amazon is definitely listening to your conversations, because you're gonna get something on it today.
Anyway, let me tell you this just happened this week. I ordered something from Kohl's, and I happened to be telling my daughter, I'm waiting for the package. It should be here by Friday. Within a few hours, on my email, no, on my messages from my phone, came USPS, we cannot deliver your package because we don't have the correct address. Now, this is within, I had a conversation with my daughter at 8 o'clock in the morning. This was probably by lunchtime. I'm being told that they can't deliver my package.
Because probably on your computer, you have you've got spyware on your computer. They're seeing those conversations, and you'll start getting these things. So you just have to just ignore them, because you know it's not true, but.
And the first thing I did was go check my order to make sure my address was correct, and I
Yeah.
said, this is a scam.
Correct.
It like happened within,
Your best friend should be the delete button, okay? Delete, 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 all day long. I get 1,000 emails a day, 950 are immediately deleted. And the same thing with with your mail that comes to your house. Half this stuff gets ripped up before I take off. So one more question over here, and then we're going to wrap her up.
Yeah, one thing that has been mentioned this afternoon is about computer scams. I'm not scammed, but
We can't hear her.
I was doing some research for my work, and all of a sudden, this black screen turned up and a message that really kept popping out, you're being hacked. Call this number, you're being hacked. And it kept repeating and repeating. And it also said that if I wouldn't do anything and call that number,
They're going to lock your account.
they would unlock my account, yes.
So what the gentleman is describing here was it's a very large scam that went around several years back. Basically where it was a computer takeover, you lock that, and it was huge. It's called service denial, and many municipalities actually fell for this. Police departments, whole towns in the state of Connecticut were held hostage because somebody had hacked into their system, denied them access to it, and towns had paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to get their systems back. So based upon everybody's input, and then nobody really left after lunch, I want to think that we were very successful today, and we want to have another one here. So I'm going to succinctly wrap this up with three easy takeaways that we can walk away from this with, right? Again, so first things first, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, right? Trust your instincts, number one. Number two, time is our friend. There is no reason to rush these things. Abraham Lincoln all day long, right? I get emails, people tell me that we stink and my police department's a bunch of idiots. I want to respond right away, but no, I don't. I see. I'm going to sit on this for 24 hours, and maybe I can craft the language that's going to be a proper response rather than shoot out what first comes to my mind, right? Because I'm going to regret that. I know I'm going to regret that. So there is no reason you can't chill for 24 hours and figure this out. And last thing, Ronald Reagan, all day long, trust but verify. I don't want you all living in fear, okay? I don't want to think the sword of Damocles is always over your head, and if you go outside, everybody's going to rob you blind and you're going to be a victim of crime. What you need to do is trust but verify, right? Trust but verify. Take your time. We're here to help, and really, please stay in touch with Christine. Let her know if this is good for you. We'll have another one. Maybe in another couple of months we'll do another thing. Thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it. And thank you to our guests, the Payne Group, all the time. Steve West, everybody you know, Regina, Joanne, my executive assistant. Thank you so much. Have a good day.